Welcome. My name is Tracy Edwards, and I'll be the moderator for today's forum. I'm the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Cupertino-Sunnyvale. This forum is a joint presentation by the League of Women Voters of Fremont, Newark, Union City, and the League of Women Voters of Cupertino-Sunnyvale. The forum will run approximately 90 minutes. Next slide, please. Attendees will be in listen-only mode, and only the panelists will be on video. The forum is being recorded and will be available at lwvfnuc.org and lwvcs.org in the next few days. Before we get to the purpose of the forum, here's some background information about who the League is and about voting on March 5th. The League has fought since 1920 to improve U.S. systems of government and to impact public policies through education and advocacy. The League is strictly nonpartisan. It neither supports nor opposes candidates for office at any level of government. The League makes a difference because of the energy and passion of thousands of members around the country who work together to safeguard our democracy. Now, to say that the California ballot can be challenging is an understatement, but we have some good news, and that's Vote 411. Vote 411 is a one-stop shop for election-related information. Among the many things on Vote 411, you'll find ballot measure information and factual data on candidates in various federal, state, and local races. To find information specific to your ballot, just go to Vote 411 and click on Find What's on Your Ballot, and then just enter your address. Everyone in California now receives their ballot by mail, but you have options on how to deliver your ballot. You may deliver your ballot by mail, no postage is necessary, but your ballot must be postmarked on or before Election Day, March 5th. You can place your ballot in a drop box, or you can deliver your ballot to a vote center. If you have questions on any of the items shown on this slide, for Santa Clara County residents, search rovservices.sccgov.org, or for Alameda County, go to www.acvote.org. Just a few more details on voting. First, if you need any of the services listed on the left side of this slide, they are available at a vote center. And second, we want to make sure that your votes are counted, so please pay attention to all of the items on the right side of this slide. In particular, sign and write your address on your return envelope. Your ballot will not be counted if there is no signature on the return envelope. And please pay attention to how they list your name on the envelope. Is it first and last or first, middle, and last? And sign your name in the same way that it's shown on the envelope. I'm just going to pause on this slide for a moment and let you view the map. This is the map of Congressional District 17. Next slide, please. Okay, let's get started. We have 5 candidates for Congressional District 17, and all 5 had planned on attending. Just a couple hours ago, we heard from Ro Khanna that due to weather and a resulting delayed flight, he is unable to attend. For this primary election, the top 2 vote getters in the primary will advance to the general election in November. The candidates have agreed to the format and the ground rules for this forum. I will post questions which were gathered in advance. Each question has a designated response time of 90 seconds, 60 seconds, or in some cases, a requested response is just a yes or no. A timer will give the candidates a visual signal to help them pace the responses and stop on time. We also ask the candidates and the public, if you choose to reference the recording of this forum or any of our forums, to only do so in its entirety. You may not reference just a portion of the forum. Each candidate also has 2 30-second rebuttal opportunities that they may use to rebut the remarks of any of the other candidates. They may not use the rebuttal time just to add to their own comments or to go off topic. Last, in advance of this forum, the candidates were provided the first and last questions. And now I want to extend a very warm welcome to Anita Chen, Dehn, Ritesh Tandon, and Mario Ramirez. During the forum, and with permission of each of the candidates, I will refer to them by their first names. The speaking order was randomly drawn and will shift with each question. The speaking order for the first question will be Anita, then Mario, Joe, and Ritesh. Anita, the first question to you. Why are you qualified to be our congressional representative? You have up to 90 seconds to respond.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you, Tracy, and the entire League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. Second, I'd like to call out the elephant in the room, me. I'm Republican and I'm young, but my age is my advantage because it gives me the drive, energy, and willingness to listen to my colleagues. I can create spaces where people from across the political spectrum interact and innovate. And let's be honest, Congress needs a new generation of leaders with innovative ideas. I represent that generation of leaders. I spent the last 10 years as an educator and entrepreneur in Silicon Valley, and the last 25 years living in this district, listening to our constituents, hearing concerns about educational freedom, community safety, crime, homelessness, and the dire need for border security. But I also hear in the dreams of my immigrant parents and parents all across this district, as well as in the voices of my students, the hope to prosper in America through their hard work. And that is what I intend to do as your representative. Listen to and represent your voice.
Thank you, Anita. Mario?
Hi, everyone. My name is Mario Art Ramirez. Thank you very much, League of Women Voters, for hosting this event. Well, I was born and raised right here in the South Bay. I went to Washington Open Elementary, Buxar Middle School, Santa Clara High School. I went to college out on the East Coast, Hofstra University. It sounds like a sneeze. It was fine. Listen, folks, I've worked as a server. I've worked as a barista at Starbucks. Those folks right now, they have no freaking voice. And look at all the people up here, okay? And the access that we all got. Well, that's what got us here. And we need to help those folks out, or else they are going to keep getting screwed. And that's going to screw us. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I want to be a representative.
Thank you, Mario. Joe?
First, my name is Joe Dehn, and I'm the most qualified candidate to represent this district in Congress because I offer a radically different alternative to the failed policies of the Republicans and the Democrats. Under both of those parties, the government has grown to monstrous proportions, come to dominate every aspect of American life, and continues to meddle in the affairs of other nations. None of those policies are good for us as citizens or as taxpayers. I propose the exact opposite platform: drastic cuts in the size of the federal government and federal taxes, ending U.S. military involvement in disputes between and within other countries, and also an end to all the domestic wars, which scapegoat groups and even inanimate objects. That includes the insane war on drugs, the attacks on the right to keep and bear arms, and the unjust treatment of people who just want to come here to make a better life for themselves and their families. I will move to end all functions of the federal government not specifically authorized in the Constitution, including all the departments set up to manage various industries, like the Department of Education, the Department of Transportation, and the Department of Agriculture, all of which waste taxpayer money on things that can be better done by the private sector. The federal government has been spending way beyond its means, our means, for decades. Government debt is skyrocketing to a point of no return. The response of both Democrat and Republican politicians to just push this problem down the road, kick it down the road, is no solution. As a member of Congress, I would move to end these failed policies and support legislation to defend individual liberty across the board.
Thank you, Joe. Ritesh?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And a big thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this important discussion. It is a pleasure to be here with you all. Tonight, I stand here not just as a dreamer, but as a doer, ready to roll up my sleeve and get to the work for better California. My family and I have been part of the Bay Area for 25 years. This is a place with all the beauty and challenges that has taught us so much that what we can achieve together. I came here 20 years ago for my master's in computer engineering. After finishing my MBA, as well as working as a research fellow at UC Berkeley, where my topic was how to revive California economy, I have come face to face with the issues we all care about. The need for better jobs, safer streets, fair immigration policies, affordable housing, quality education, and healthcare. I have spent years looking for the ways to solve this problem, and I'm ready to bring those solutions to the table. My experience is not just academic. Having working for the place like Cisco and started my own company for the last 25 years, I know how I can build a business and stay and grow in California. For the last 24 years, I'm working on the ground helping the homeless and needy individual. I know how I can help them and fix it. I'm not just asking for your vote tonight. I'm asking for your trust and partnership. I promise to defend our freedom and listen to your need. It will be my great honor to serve you and make the difference for our future generation. Thank you so much for organizing this.
Ritesh, thank you. The next question is for 60 seconds, and our first responder will be Ritesh. Housing, Ritesh, is a major problem in California. Developers have fewer zoning constraints as legislation has shifted some control from the city to the state. Still, developers are not building because they say it's too difficult and time-consuming to secure financing. With that in mind, what further actions, if any, should be taken to stimulate construction of affordable housing? And again, you have 60 seconds.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I can say that the housing is a big issue in the Bay Area. Today, with the costs going up, the rental market going up, the policies and the regulations which are built by the California is completely out of control. Even I had one property, I was trying to build another house by dividing the slot. I was told it will take 8 months. Look into the insane regulations, what is there. When somebody applies for the permit, they have to wait for months and months before things can get better and anything can happen. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I will make these regulations much easier. If somebody wants to build a house, it will be much easier for them to build. Second, it will be the one-stop shop. If somebody wants to go and work the stuff, it can be easier. I like to redefine the zoning. The zoning is very important right now, and make it much easier with the incentives to the builders that they should build and take care of the unhoused people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh. Anita?
Thank you. Housing is such an important part of our everyday lives, and it's important that each of us has a sense that we can have affordable housing. At the federal level, what we can do is limited because state and local governments have the most to say about how housing policies affect our day-to-day lives. For example, Prop 19, which is at the state level, made home ownership and even rentals more expensive and more difficult. But at the federal level, I think one thing that we can do is to stop our overspending. Because of our overspending, we have to print more money in order to pay for it, and that printing causes inflation to increase, making home ownership more difficult for everyone. So I think at the federal level, one thing we must do is to stop the overspending to make living more affordable for everyone.
Thank you. Mario?
I would like to yield my time to ask the other candidates about overspending because they keep bringing it up. Would they qualify rent relief to people that need it as overspending, yes or no?
We don't do that. I appreciate the sentiment, but if you're done, we will move on to Joe.
I will give them all the opportunity to answer, but I'm done talking because it's not about that we can do all this stuff. We just don't care. People don't fucking care in the government. That's why.
Okay. Please, no bad language. Thank you. Joe?
Do children vote? We're adults here, right? We can talk like adults because that's what this process needs. No, that's part of the problem with this whole process. There's no freaking honesty in any of this process. Any of it from the bottom up. I'm trying to do all this shit by myself. It's fucking impossible.
Mario, I'm going to give you one light warning. We have to stay on topic. You can answer the question. If you want to give a brief answer,
I'm
that's
trying.
fine.
No, because people are like, no, things need to be different. I offered to try to do something a little bit different. I said, hey, do you think that's overspending? And it's okay for them to say yes or no. I just want to know. I just want to know so we can all know, because guess what? I do not think that's overspending.
We're going to move on to
if it's
Joe.
okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mario. Joe?
So I agree with what the first two speakers said. Those things are things that should be done. But of course, that's not really something that Congress can do to change the state regulations. We definitely, if the economy were doing better, and if people did not have such a big tax burden imposed on them, they would be able to afford a lot of things better than they can now. I suppose there is a way that Congress could act to deal with the state tax problems, and we could talk about that when we get elected. How about a constitutional amendment at the federal level to limit taxation of property in every state across the country? That would be using one level of government to limit the ability of another government to act. I think that would be a very interesting idea that we could explore.
Thank you. Mario, I don't know if you want to come back on camera. The next question is a yes, no. And to this, I'm just asking those that would say yes to this question to please raise your hand. The question is, do you support a woman's right to reproductive freedom? Again, yes, raise your hand. Okay, just to confirm, Anita, you are not raising your hand. Is that?
That's correct, but I'd like to clarify if that's possible.
It's just a yes, no. I do understand it's ambiguous.
Well, sometimes questions are phrased in a way that makes it very hard for people to give the yes, no question.
So if you can put your hands up, we're going to go on to the next question. Thank you.
That was a pretty easy question, dude. I mean, come on. Okay, but I would like to hear what she would like to say. So please,
no.
Please, she didn't get a chance
sorry,
to answer
Mario.
Mario, no, let her. Let her. I want to hear her out. Maybe I vote for her. Maybe I'm not decided. Maybe I want to vote for her. I want to hear Anita out. I want to hear her out.
No, I'm sorry. We're moving on. And I'm going to count that as one warning. Thank you. Anita, you want to use one of your rebuttals?
How many more? How many more do I need? How many more do I have?
Yes. Here's my clarification. I believe all life is precious, including the life of the mother and the child. As your legislator, I know that it is the duty of legislators to uphold the law, and the Supreme Court has returned this question to the states, and it is my intention to uphold that law.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we will assume that's your first rebuttal. Thank you. Mario, I'll just respond to your question. You had one warning, you get a total of 2.
You can have my rebuttal. She doesn't have to use one of hers. You can use mine because I've been trying to.
No, we don't do it. So Mario,
why not?
You get 2 warnings. With the third, you are asked, we removed you from the forum. So you've used up.
Okay, 3 strikes. Got it. Okay, got it. But okay. I am offering her my rebuttal.
We're going to move on. We're moving on. And Joe, this first question will go to you at 60 seconds. And I want to first acknowledge that the students of the Youth Public Policy Institute provided this, and we are really thankful for how engaged they are. The question they have is, how do you plan to balance calls to protect the right to own a firearm with gun control laws to protect individuals?
Well, first of all, I would say that gun control laws don't really protect individuals. There have been dozens of laws at the federal level and plus ones on the state level that were supposed to solve this problem, and they don't, because unless you're going to turn the whole country into a police state where everybody is constantly being examined for what they're holding every place they go, there is no way to stop people from having weapons. That's just a practical limitation. This is not the right approach. So I would not see a problem balancing this. It seems to me people have the right. It's in the Constitution. It exists before the Constitution to defend themselves and to use tools to defend themselves. And I think if the current laws have not gotten the results people want, it's foolish to think that additional laws of basically the same type are going to do it.
Thank you. Ritesh?
Yeah, I think that first of all, we need the control on the guns. I can understand that people need the protection and First Amendment and the normal gun, But nobody needs the assault rifle. And those kind of assault rifle, we don't need the battleground here. So for that, I'll be very strict. And as a I will implement the universal background check, make sure that there is no loopholes. I will go for the red flag laws. We supplement that anyone not supposed to hold a gun will not be. I will put the severe ban on assault weapons. In fact, we don't need the assault weapons and the army style here. Also, I will have the community-based intervention program where we invest in the community, teach them how to safely use the guns for those who are the guns owner. But at the same time, we have to make sure that those guns does not end up at the school safety enhancement. Also, I will make the parent liable if they have used the guns on the schools. At the same time,
thank you.
Gun ownership. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita?
I think gun violence is one of the most critical issues we need to address as a nation, because the tragic effect of it is the loss of life, a mother who loses her daughter, a father who loses his son. It's one of the biggest tragedies that we face time and time again. But I think we have to recognize that the issue is not with the guns, but the people holding the guns. Oftentimes, these individuals are struggling with mental health, and as a society, we need to recognize that. I would support legislation to increase mental health support for these individuals, particularly because many of the school shooters are already on the FBI watch list. So investing in mental health support services for them can address the mental health epidemic that we face as a country.
Thank you. Mario? You're on mute.
You're never going to figure out the gun problem unless you start actually tackling the issues as to why people are buying the damn things in the first place. Are they scared? Yeah, there are a lot of people out there that feel physically insecure. You were talking about a police state? Dude, people live in a freaking police state right now in San Jose. They feel that way. It's so absurd. And so they got to go buy a firearm? No, that should not be the only way. We need to give people another way, a new hope that has nothing to do with firearms, that will actually give them that sense of trust and hope. But right now, all these people are just like saying the same things that I've heard over and over again, and it's not going to go anywhere. We've seen it. It's not going to happen.
Thank you. Mario, you have the next question, and it's a 90-second response. And that is, for our congressional district, please mention the 3 most significant local issues we face and what you'll do to address those issues.
Great question. So part of my campaign, when I win the primary, I'm going to go around and I'm going to survey between now and, between the primary and November to make sure that I get to talk to every single person in this district and ask them one question. Well, maybe a couple questions, but basically, what do you want your government to do? What's something around here that you want cleaned up? Maybe they don't like the smell of milpitas. I don't know, but I'll ask. And then I'll find those top 3 things and I'll act on them. And that's what I want to do. Simple. Done. Did it take 90 seconds?
You did not. Thank you. Joe?
So I think that's the wrong way to look at the job of a congressman. The job of the congressman is
Why?
not to go into.
No,
I'm responding to her question, not your.
Okay, but I would like a rebuttal then.
Sure.
As soon as he's
When I'm
done,
done.
we'll
When I'm
acknowledge
done.
that.
So the job of a congressman is to participate in making laws for the country as a whole. We've too many congressmen who think their job is to represent their particular constituents, to go to solve their problems with agencies, and that there's some sort of ombudsman or something. That's not the job. It's also not the job to bring goodies back to your district and say, well, our district needs a new airport, so I'll go and put something in the FAA authorization to give special favors to the San Jose airport. No, that's not the job. The job is to set policy for the federal government, and that means doing things that will make the entire country healthier. And you shouldn't be looking just at the interests of your own district. And that means the priorities should be things like getting the federal budget under control so that the current citizens and future citizens, our children and grandchildren, aren't buried under a mountain of debt. Getting the U.S. out of being the policeman of the world so that people from this district and the rest of the country aren't being sent overseas to die. These are the kinds of things that Congress should do for our district, the things that help everybody in the whole country.
Thank you, Joe. Mario, you wanted to rebut?
Yeah, I got it. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Anything they say right now, nobody believes them anyway. Why does it freaking matter? That's why it's like, who cares about policy right now? Okay, no. We need to change the office. That's what we need to do. We need to make it more accountable and actually give them things that we can see them doing, okay? Because guess what? I looked it up. What does a congressperson need to do? They don't need to be in committees. They don't need to write laws. No, they just need to vote in the chamber, and that is it. That is the only thing they are responsible for doing. And that is the only thing I care about. And the only way I can do that, at the best of my ability, is to make sure that I spoke to every single person here at least once and said, okay, I understand you, and I'm going to act in your best interest the best I can in that moment.
We're out of time. Ritesh?
Yes, thank you so much. And I agree with Joe, but at the same time, I can tell you, there's a federal grants which goes to the city, state. There are many federal programs which influence the local needs. So what I believe and what we have researched, my 3 priorities will be, first will be protect the Silicon Valley jobs and stop the exodus of the companies. In the California, we have seen that because of excessive taxes, crime rate, high cost of living, about 352 companies, they moved out of the California. Not only that, about 450,000 people moved out of California. I like to fix this. I like to work with the local government and ensure that there is a fair competition and there is a private protection for the people. I like to ensure that the Silicon Valley continue to thrive. My second focus will be, I will bring the federal grant for the local need. And that local need, which is the safety, security of every American's affordable housing, reduced cost of living, merit-based college admissions, and women rights. I'll bring the federal agencies to work closely with the local. And the third and foremost for me is, and close to my heart, is environmental protection and climate change. I will bring the federal program. I like to promote the green technology and sustainable practices to combat the climate change so that this earth will be available to our children and the future generation. We must encourage innovation in nuclear and solar to meet the clean energy demand. I like to share the technology and license across the globe so everyone can go green and reduce the carbon emission. Friends, this is a great opportunity for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anita?
You're muted.
You're muted, Anita.
We can't hear you, Anita.
Thank you. I'd like to first address Mario because I hear the frustration and anger in your voice. And I think many of us are feeling that way right now. I want to appreciate you for taking the time to do something about it. That's how I felt this summer when I found out how prevalent and pervasive the issue of human trafficking is in the Bay Area and around our nation. It's the reason that I began this campaign. But as I looked deeper, I found that it was connected to so many of the issues that we all face. I think that the 3 most important issues facing our local community, our district right now, are border security, crime, and the issue of human trafficking. Here's what I would do. We need to acknowledge first that a country without a border is barely a country at all. Unfortunately, the flow of illegal immigration at our southern border is threatening every single community in America, increasing homelessness, bankrupting social services, and even replacing American children in public schools. There is a cost to having an open border, and unfortunately, more and more Americans are feeling the brunt of it. 10,000 unaccompanied minors per month are being taken through the border, according to the CBP, with many reports of abuse for women and children. That amounts to a humanitarian crisis. So as your federal legislator, I would support every single effort to secure the border, and we begin there to address all the other problems that affect us all.
Thank you very much. The next question is for 60 seconds, and Mario, you'll be the first person to respond. The question, your district includes areas which have been identified as at risk due to sea level rise. What is your plan to deal with sea level rise and its impact on communities you'll serve?
Listen, folks, on the federal level, until things really change, and hopefully this election it will, nothing's going to happen with climate change. But thank God the state of California is doing good work. So, you know, we'll just let them take the way. I'm here to make sure that they're allowed to help out in that regard federally. And if there's a problem, please let me know when I'm in charge.
Okay. Joe?
So I don't believe it's the job of the federal government to defend individual people's or businesses' property. Climate changes. Some of it is caused by human activity, but climate has been changing for millions of years. This is just a fact of living on an actual planet.
Wait, you don't think the police should exist?
Mario, I'm sorry, no comments. Thank you.
Well, no, he said that they
Mario,
shouldn't protect
sorry,
the
I'm
property.
sorry.
Like that's the
Sorry,
whole job.
please
Like
stop.
I'm
Thank you.
Right.
Joe, please.
My point is, you build something somewhere on the edge of a bay, you ought to know that there's water there, and you ought to know that the water level can change. The projections of climate change are over periods of decades. We have, 50 years from now, the water will be a certain number of feet higher, right? Urban areas evolve all the time. Buildings get torn down. The best way to deal with this is through market forces. The people who know, who can predict these things, can tell you whether this is a good place to build your thing or not, and you build in places that are safe. And it's not the job of the federal government to protect individual properties from the changes in climate.
Thank you.
Are you blaming taxpayers for government inaction?
Mario, I'm sorry, please. Only respond if you have one more rebuttal or if you've been asked a question specifically. Ritesh?
Yeah, thank you so much. I strongly believe that federal government can play the crucial role in the climate change. Today, what we are seeing in the world, I think this is because of us. I went to the NASA, I saw the carbon level, how the things are increasing, how it's changing the atmosphere. I think it is time to act now. In fact, as a federal lawmaker, I will work to reduce the fossil fuel sensibly, not drastically like how some of the lawmakers are doing, sensibly. That means reduction must not disrupt the economy, should not create the inflation or displace the worker. I will also work with the global leaders and share our technology so that when we are not producing the enough carbon, they should also not produce the enough carbon. So we will work locally. Also, I will encourage a lot more innovation on the nuclear and the solar side. I will bring the federal grant so that we can produce a lot more clean energy and more incentives and work with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita?
Sure. Thank you for bringing up this issue. I think it's so important because in particular, those who maybe are most vulnerable or don't have the means to move out from these areas are to be most affected. And at the same time, though, I agree with Joe that this probably falls under the jurisdiction of the state and local government. But as your legislature, I would certainly consider what we can do at the federal level to try and address this problem. For example, we could learn from Singapore or Dubai, very experienced in extending our ground with sand to make man-made islands. And I would absolutely consider any initiatives at the federal level to address sea level rise to make sure that constituents in our district are taken care of.
Thank you. We're going to stick with climate change here and another question. And Anita, you're going to be the first to respond to the question. California has a goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2045. What is one big idea you have for accelerating the goal for becoming carbon neutral? And please be very specific.
I love this question. I'm an English teacher in my everyday practice. I have been for the last 10 years, and I always try and give my students interesting topics to think about big questions and how they could affect the world around them. Right now, we're learning about energy, and I think one great idea would be to install tidal wave energy so we can put turbines, kind of like wind turbines, but in the ocean. We have this beautiful coastline, all of which we can harvest for 24-hour energy to create a carbon neutral future, or at least one that doesn't hurt our environment too much.
Thank you. Mario?
I'm so sorry. I got fixated on something
You want me to
the previous speaker said. Yes, please. I'm so sorry. Yes.
California has a goal of becoming carbon neutral by 2045. What is one big idea you have for accelerating the goal for becoming carbon neutral? And please be specific.
Well, it's definitely not destroying the view of our great coastlines with weird things hanging off of them. But anyway, how about let's just have no one drive for a year? That might help. Listen, that's a crazy idea, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to happen anyway until things change on the congressional level. And the only way that's going to happen is if the voters actually start holding our representatives accountable for the things that they say they do. And listen, they say they can do a lot, and they're lying to you. That's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to do that. And that's why I want to ask you, between the primary and the general, what you want me to do and how you want me to tackle climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
So this whole idea of setting a goal for something like carbon neutrality, which isn't even clearly defined, because you have to take into account all of the other implications of any change in the technology you use and any change. This all reminds me of the failed plans of the old Soviet Union, where they'd set some goal for 5 years from now, and then it didn't work, and they'd make another one. This is not the way to make changes in our economy or in technology. There's all sorts of great technological ideas for producing energy in a more efficient way. Fusion, great. Having wind and solar, great, okay? And these are all good ideas, but it's not the job of the government to plan technology or to plan the operation of the economy. These things should all be explored, and they should all compete in the marketplace. And as things develop, things will get better. We don't know. 20 years from now, we may have fusion technology, and all of the carbon-based stuff will just go away by itself.
Thank you very much. Ritesh?
Yes, thank you so much, Tracy. This is again very important.
Sorry, Mario, did you want to use your last rebuttal?
Yeah, sure. Why not? It just feels like, okay, I understand like what he's saying, but like, I feel like people are generally more productive when, we have electricity and they're not running on candles still. I don't know. That's just how.
Okay. Ritesh?
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing this important topic. This is very important for our children and everyone, I can say. So first of all, we have to become carbon neutral as we go forward. But at the same time, our need is for the electricity. Our need is for day-to-day functioning, for innovation, for growth. We need a lot more power and energy. We cannot stop that. As a federal government and the federal lawmaker, I will put a lot more money as well as the research part for the nuclear and the solar to meet the clean energy demand for us. Not only this part, I will give incentives to the companies to come up with a more innovative solution. Because today's solar, when we produce the solar panel, we use a lot more energy to produce it. And we spoil a lot more climate as compared to what we produce and save. So what I mean to say is I like to put a lot more funds on the research part. I will go for the nuclear. I see that the California going away from the nuclear. I like to build the nuclear plants more with the clean energy, with the more safety. And we see and we learn from the European companies.
Thank you, Ritesh. Appreciate it. You'll be the first person to respond to this next question, which is for 60 seconds. There has been an increase in hate crimes. What can be done to create a safer environment for the targeted groups?
So first of all, this is a very important topic you have brought it up, because I myself have faced this issue of the hate crime, and especially when the COVID happened. Not only this part, recently the temples were vandalized. Even my Chinese friends, they were targeted, and a lot more things. I think this is a time we should start working together, and we can start telling people about each other culture, because this is what's happening. Like people, they don't know each other, they don't understand each other culture. Also, at the same time, I like to work with the local law enforcement officers. I'll bring the federal grant for that, so that they will mingle a lot more with the community, work with the community, understand the community, and also teach each other about each other's culture. Because we in California, we are very much a diverse community here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita?
Thank you for the question. This question hits close to home. I remember during the pandemic watching videos of Asian American elders who were slashed across the face, pushed down to the ground, and my heart would just break. And I wondered what we could do. I think at the federal level, What we must do is to create a stance in which we uphold the rule of law. Again, a lot of these issues are at the state and local level. But at the federal level, we must take a stance in which we uphold the rule of law and oppose propositions like Proposition 47, which has failed to create a safer environment for all of our communities. And so while, again, this is a state and local issue at the federal level, I'd like to resource the police officers with anything that they need in order to uphold the rule of law in our communities.
Thank you. Mario? Oh, Mario, you're on mute.
Sorry. May I get the question one more time, please?
Sure. There's been an increase in hate crimes. What can be done to create a safer environment for the targeted groups?
Increase in hate crimes. May I ask about the statistics, please?
Oh, I don't have them available for you, but it's frequently been in the press as
Right. Yeah, I'm sure the press will, like, they sensationalize everything. So like, that's why I want to know the statistics, because listen, this is a very touchy subject. We're in a very like interesting time right now when it comes to race relations. And at the same time, look at the Black Lives Matter movement. Nothing's really changed since then. So, again, we just need to be more honest with each other, and at the same time, we got to be honest about ourselves. Some people are just going to make you uncomfortable, but you got to just trust that they're not coming after you and that you're not going to give them a reason to go after you too. But on a federal level, we can just help out by making sure that people have all their survival needs taken care of, so they have absolutely no reason to come after you. And right now, people don't feel that way. So.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
So first of all, crime is a problem. And if people are committing crimes against other people because of their race or their religion, that's a bad thing. But the real problem is crime. And we have to have a standard in our society that it is not okay to knock old ladies down, whatever their ethnicity is. It's not okay to burn down people's houses or burn crosses on their lawn or anything else like that. These are crimes, right? But I want to point out there's an underlying problem here, and that is that the reason why people tend to hate people of other backgrounds is that they are presented as the other. They are not the people they're living with. Politics divides people. America is actually relatively successful compared to a lot of other countries in that people from all backgrounds have always been able to live together, cooperate with each other, do business with each other. We have to have an economic and social system where everybody interacts as individuals and not as groups fighting against each other.
Thank you. And Joe, you're going to be the first person to respond to this next question, which is for 60 seconds. What is your policy for funding the war in Ukraine? And please be specific, including whether a decision to fund would include the possibility of Ukraine conceding territory to Russia.
I do not believe it is the job of the United States to sort out the problems of people in other countries. Right? They have their own governments. They have their own militaries. It is, I have great sympathy for the people in Ukraine. I do not like the idea of a neighboring country coming in and invading them. However, it is not the job of the United States government to solve the problems of people in other countries. We have a government, we have a constitution that was set up to run this country. It is not a proper role of that government to either decide how other countries are organized or to take money from the American taxpayers to solve those problems. What you have in most of these flashpoints around the world, you have either one ethnicity against another, one religion against another. That individual Americans can take sides, but it should not be the role of the U.S. government to impose its will on other countries.
Thank you. Ritesh?
Yeah, I'd like to mention that up till now, U.S. government has spent $75 billion. And now again, they are working on another bill where they are going to give $95 billion for Ukraine, Israel, and others. I want to tell you that Ukraine war is overextended. I'm not saying that we should walk away with that. No country should dictate and become dictator and rule on other people because that country is weak. That is, we Americans are. We help others, we protect others, we work for others, and we work together. In fact, we should encourage the peace treaty and work together with Ukraine and Russia and come to the conclusion. I think that the peace and the discussion and talk can help end the war, but I am not open for open check. We should fund it, but not the open check. We should work in such a way that there should be some conclusion and end to this war. An innocent life of Russia side as well as the Ukraine young kids is lost. Is very sad to see that.
Thank you. Anita?
The Ukrainian war is one of the greatest tragedies of our modern times. The loss of life on both sides is particularly heartbreaking, especially for civilians. But the first responsibility as federal legislators is to take care of the American people and secure our borders and ensure that the American people have safety and sovereignty. And only when we've taken care of our own people do we have the strength and credibility to help others. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, we should, but that comes after taking care of Americans first. I think as an international community, we need to create the conditions for peace. But as for the question of whether or not land should be ceded, that's something that the leaders of those two nations should ultimately decide.
Okay. Mario, you are off video.
Yeah, sorry. I took my thing off because it was getting warm. Can I get the question one more time, please?
Sure. What is your policy for funding the war in Ukraine? Please be specific, including whether a decision to fund would include the possibility of Ukraine conceding territory to Russia.
I don't understand the idea that it's not our government's job to defend our friends, because then what's the whole freaking point of having a good guy with a gun to begin with if they're not going to protect the people around them that help build on this world? And if you don't recognize the existential threat that Russia and autocracy around the world is trying to piece away at our democracy, and that democracy is essential to being American, and you're not, and I understand the blank check thing, but this is beyond that. And if you don't recognize that and you're not willing to act no matter what it takes, then you're a fool and you're only thinking about your own lifetime. I got to think about mine. Sorry.
Okay. Mario, this next question, you'll be the first person to respond. It's for 60 seconds. We're sticking with foreign policy here. What would your policy be on funding Israel's war efforts in Gaza?
What? Why would I want to give them money for more wars? I understand the point of the question, but one thing that really infuriates me in all of this is that in war, the first thing to die is the truth. And listen, people on both sides, they just aren't on the same page, just like our Congress. So you know what? Nothing's going to get done. And you know what? I don't want to give money to that, because that is actually, for lack of a better word, a shit show. So why are we even participating in this? We are enabling Israel, just like China enables North Korea. It's ridiculous. It is an embarrassment on the world stage.
Okay, Joe?
Well, like basically the same answer as for the previous question, that it's not really something that needs to be sorted out by the United States. That said, I'd say that Israel has a right to defend itself. And the idea that Israel should not act to protect its citizens from attack by a hostile neighboring country, proto-country, is ridiculous. They should be able to defend themselves. But the problem is that the United States and the West in general have been meddling in the Middle East for over a century, maybe longer. And we are not going to solve this problem. Basically, what we do is we actually help both sides. We help both the Israelis and the Arabs, and we are enabling this continuing conflict. We really should stay out of these kinds of things all over the world. Not that we can't have opinions, but it's not the job of the United States government to solve those problems.
Thank you. Ritesh?
Yeah, first of all, my heart goes to both the sides, Israel as well as Gaza, where innocent people, they are killed. But at the same time, we should not forget that what happened on October 7, when 1,200 innocent women, men, young children, they were died. And what Hamas has done is a terrorist organization. Israel is our friend. if we don't stand with our friend, don't support Israel, then what's going to happen? At the same time, we have to also worry about the innocent people, because these Hamas terrorists, they are hiding behind the common people. It is a time for the Palestinian people to go against the Hamas and bring the people in the front. And Hamas should release all the hostages, unconditional, and come on the table and end the war. In fact, what Israel is doing today is right. They are defending themselves. If they don't stop it, this will happen again. But at the same time, we need not to be on the war, and let's try to have peaceful solution, which I see Israel is doing their best.
Thank you. Anita?
I agree with Ritesh. The attack on October 7th was both horrific and barbaric, and the world watched as it seemed that that part of the world was on fire. The loss of life on both sides is just deeply heartbreaking. I believe that Israel, like any other nation, has the right to defend their borders. I also believe that the majority of Palestinians didn't support the October 7th attack, just as I don't believe the majority of Israelis support the continued war in Gaza. So to truly represent the interests of their people, the leaders of both sides must come to the table to negotiate a ceasefire with a peace agreement that has teeth. Peace is possible, and that is what I would advocate for.
Thank you. Mario, this next question is going to you first, and it is for 60
All right.
seconds. How do you plan to address issues related to border security and undocumented immigrants already in the United States?
Oh, like I've tried to, I actually don't think I said this. If we're doing nothing to help convince those people not to come here and to stay there, as in like keeping corrupt politicians accountable in those countries, providing different types of aid, because obviously the types of aid that we're trying right now and have tried didn't work. So we've got to try it a different way. But I'm open to different ideas, and I've got different ways that we can achieve those. But yes, we need to figure out ways that those people feel secure enough in their current homes that they don't have to come here like my dad did.
Okay. Joe?
Well, the current immigration policy of the United States is a total mess because the establishment politicians have forgotten the principle that is so clearly stated in our Declaration of Independence, that all people are created equal. The freedom to move from one place to another is a basic human right. It's not something you get because of where you were born. The politicians have also forgotten that the basic idea of a democracy is that the people who live in a country should control the government, not the other way around. It's not the right of the politicians to decide who should live in the country. As a member of Congress, I would move immediately to, first, eliminate all caps on H-1B and similar visas. People with the education and skills to be attractive to employers are exactly the sort of people we should be happy to have come here and stay here. It's crazy to keep them out. We should also allow anyone who has been living in the United States for at least 5 years and who hasn't committed a serious crime against some actual victim to become a citizen. And we should dismantle the apparatus that has been built up over the years to hunt down and persecute immigrants whose only crime is not having the government's permission to live and work here.
Thank you. Ritesh?
Yeah, I agree with Joe what he has said. Besides this, what I'm going to what I like to mention is, first of all, the massive illegal immigration at the border is very alarming. We have to stop that. It is very costly, full of security risks, and it need to be stopped immediately. Also, it is important to help the humanity, because we must we are doing that part. We are giving so many asylum every year. But at the same time, we have to also look into cost to the taxpayer. Today, America is not a rich country. It often used to be. We have 70 million US people on the welfare, and millions are homeless. 50% of our population lives in near poverty. Our homeless and veterans are not being catered today. And how we can take care of the homeless, providing them the free medical services, providing them the hospitals, education, everything. I think it's highly unfair to the taxpayer. We need to stop this illegal immigration process, and we have to first work for our people, our community, and we ensure that everyone is taken care.
Thank you. Thank you. Anita?
I'm all for legal immigration. It's what makes our country so special. It's what makes this district so unique and diverse. but illegal immigration threatens that system and it threatens this process. It allows people who violated the law, who skip the line, to delegitimize the process and disenfranchise people who are following laws and are waiting their turn. I was an American citizen before my parents were because I was born here and they had to wait to transfer their green card into a citizenship. I hope that that journey is possible for many individuals, from H-1B visa holders to those who come with the clothes on their back, so that they can build a new life here. But I want them to do it the right way, a legal way, so that they can contribute to our society in a way that they can feel proud of.
Thank you. Anita, you're getting this question first. It's for 60 seconds, and that is, should parents be able to direct schools to remove books from their library? If yes, why? If no, why not?
I think parents have the natural right to educate their children. They can choose to delegate that right temporarily to public schools and to private schools or charter schools. For this specific question of whether or not parents should be allowed to remove books from a school board or a library, I think that parents should definitely have a say at school board meetings. And if the majority of parents come together and agree that, you know, we really don't want these types of books in our schools, then yes, I do think that they have the right and should have the right to determine the type of curriculum and material that their students are reading.
Thank you. Mario?
Yeah, if I had to get rid of every book that I didn't like growing up in school, I would probably get rid of like all of them. I mean, they kind of suck to read, you know. They were very boring and long. Just saying, you know. No, it's stupid. Come on, like that's a part of life, folks. School teaches us, right, about how to deal with things that, you know, maybe we don't like, you know, or it introduces us to something. Like, I understand the books that, you know, this question, right, you know, is like pertaining to. I've read a little bit about it. I haven't read the actual thing, but oh my goodness, it's like people have never had to deal with something like unpleasant in their like one freaking.
Okay. Joe?
So the implicit in this question seems to be the idea that it's the job of the federal government to decide school policy, which I totally disagree with. I don't think the federal government should have anything to do with educational policy. I don't think the federal government should be funding any educational institutions. I don't think it should be regulating them. I actually believe we should be moving away from what is currently basically a socialist model of education, where most of it is provided by government-run and government-financed institutions, toward a free market in education. And if you have parents choosing where their kids are going, you can have a wide variety of different kinds of schools, and people can pick schools that have library policies that match what they think is good for their kids. I hate the idea of government censorship. Government should not be in any way directly or indirectly supporting the banning of books anywhere. The people who are building a library and using a library should choose what goes in there. Government should have nothing to do with it.
Thank you. Ritesh?
So as a federal lawmaker, I understand that I don't have say, but we will intervene in this because it's the federal government who funds these schools. They give the sections and the grants. So children are our future. And parents should have the major role in determining that future. And parents should have the rights to say what is there, what is taught to their children, and what is not. Let's take our kids back and educate them the way we want to educate. Not the state, not the politicians, not the biased school boards, and not the teacher union should control what need to be taught. Today, when I look into the California school, they discuss like sexual content at the early age. They recommend reading books like Queer in the high school, and the same-sex things encourage racism and division, CRT stories. They talk about Palestine are good and Jews are bad. All these division policies need to be stopped. We need to talk more about the STEM program. We need to talk about entrepreneurship, innovation, technologies, and much more in early stage versus all this.
Thank you very much. This next question is a yes, no, and as with the other one, if your answer is yes, please raise your hand. Was the 2020 election free and fair? If yes, please raise your hand.
There's problems with every election.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have everybody's hand up or not? Joe, your hand is down?
I can't say it was totally fair, but I don't think it was especially unfair compared to the other elections.
And Anita, your hand is up or not up?
Yeah, I'd like to clarify if that's possible.
Do you want to use one of your rebuttals? You have one left.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Thank you. I think that it warrants further scrutiny. I think there have been many court cases, many arguments on both sides.
Hold on. Wait, is Joe
Wait,
Biden
wait,
president?
Mario, I'm
Can-
sorry.
Can we please?
Please,
No, this is important. This is this is what the question's
I'm
about.
sorry.
Is
No,
Joe Biden
no.
president?
I think you're going to
No,
get your turn.
Mario, please. You have no more rebuttals. Thank you.
Oh.
It's not rebuttal. It's like, come on,
Mario,
it's reality.
Sorry. I really need, I'm going to give you a second warning. Please don't be disruptive. Thank you very much. Anita, go ahead.
I'll
We'll
address
we'll
his
start your
question,
time.
which
We'll
is,
start
yes,
your
Joe
30
Biden is the president. I acknowledge that and believe that there should be a peaceful transfer of power. But I also acknowledge that there have been some discrepancies that I think warrant further scrutiny.
That would change the results of the election.
Thank you. Thank
Because
you.
otherwise, there's no
Very
point.
good.
So why even bring that up?
Mario, thank you. Okay, next question. And Ritesh, this will go to you. And you mentioned this earlier. California has experienced a migration of businesses out of the state. What will you do to reverse the trend? And please be specific.
Yeah, absolutely. When we look into the California, about 373,000 companies, 373 companies moved out. I'm talking about the headquarters. 450,000 people moved out of California. I think this is the time we need to reform the California. We need to focus on reducing the crime rate here because the people, they are moving away. We need to reform and fix our housing problem. The living cost is way too high. We need to reduce the taxes so that the companies can innovate and grow. We need to have the reasonable regulations versus the regulations what we are having right now. We have to diversify our supply chain so that what will happen that companies, those who are growing and innovating here, they should not face challenges. We need to remove our outdated law which stop the companies to grow and work freely. Also, at the same time, I like to build the smart city concept where the people can work at the same time.
Thank you very much. Anita?
CD 17 is one of the highest density districts for companies. And I know many friends who are in startups and building their own businesses. So I understand how important it is to have business here in the heart of the Silicon Valley. As a federal legislator, I think our influence is limited on what we can do to keep businesses in California. But in general, I think reasonable regulation, lower taxes is a winning formula to help companies stay afloat, not just survive, but also thrive.
Thank you very much. Mario? Hey, you're muted.
May I get the question one more time, please?
Sure. California has experienced a migration of businesses out of the state. What would you do to reverse the trend?
If they don't want to do business with us, screw them. I don't care. Listen, California, they're doing very well in terms of making sure that companies, pay their fair share of taxes. And, if the companies don't want to pay them here because they don't want to, value our life every day, then you know what, screw it. They can go to Texas where, all their, people get screwed every day anyway. So who cares?
All right. Thank you. Joe?
So this is traditionally considered a benefit of a federal system, that you have each state being free to experiment with different policies. And what we're seeing here is that California has come up with some pretty harmful policies that it has imposed, largely because there's no competition. There's no real debate in the state legislature because it's all controlled by one party. And we have a representative of that party here, and he says he's gonna fix that by doing more things at the federal level. That's not the way to do it. We're not going to make things equal or help California with federal laws. The changes have to happen at the state level. And perhaps one thing a congressman can do is, since he's in Washington, D.C., together with people congressmen from all the rest of the country. Maybe he could learn from Texas and Tennessee and some of these other places that everybody's moving to, find out why people are moving there, and come back and talk to the politicians here and help educate them.
Thank you. Ritesh, you'd like to use a rebuttal?
Yes, actually, as a federal regulator, I can see that we give a lot of grants to the universities. And in fact, we can have the companies to work with the universities, because today when our students are coming out, they are not up to the level and they are not up to the latest technologies and the next innovation. We can have the grant where the companies work on the latest artificial intelligence, data sciences, and the next generation technology. So students can learn, and also the companies can grow and they can hire them. We need to have the strategy for talent attraction, where the world best talent should come here in the Bay Area. And again, reasonable regulatory environment. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Joe, you receive this question first. It's for 60 seconds. Your district is very diverse demographically and economically. How will you effectively represent all your constituents?
I think a congressman can very easily represent diverse constituents, because I think at fundamental level, the needs of all the constituents are the same. It doesn't matter whether they came from China or India or their parents did, or Mexico or someplace in Europe. We all have the same needs. We have the same need for a stable economy, the same needs for liberty, the ability to bring up our families as we choose. These are all common interests. There's no need to represent people based on their race or their religion or anything else like that. So I think the diversity of this district is a positive thing, but I don't think it makes puts any special requirements on the representation. It's really the job of a national legislator to set national policy that helps everybody in the country.
Thank you. Ritesh?
I want to tell you, I myself come from the different background. And when I see that when 30% of the population are Asian, the Hindi is not taught in the school, whereas the other thing, I have worked with the different communities here in the Bay Area. I understand their culture. So it's very important as a federal lawmaker, I should understand so that I'm not harming anybody. Second, the education part. We need to teach each other about the culture and the diversity. Also, we have to come together as a community so that we celebrate each other festival, because we have seen that the people, we know that Chinese New Year was there. It was such a great occasion. We celebrated. I enjoyed so much. Our children should learn their culture as well. And I can tell you, diversity, we are very fortunate that we are here in the Bay Area, where diversity is awesome. We can enjoy the different food, different culture. At the same time, from the federal government, I like to promote every culture so that they can showcase everything and let everyone become the part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita?
Thank you. As I mentioned in my opening, I'm committed to listening to and representing the voice of my constituents. And I have many ideas of how we can do that. First, I'd like to open advisory boards on technology, healthcare, housing, and on these advisory boards, I'll have community representatives, nonprofit representatives, industry, business representatives, and even government representatives that can advise me on the policies that are presented to me before my desk. We can also build multi-ethnic, interfaith coalitions that can help us to represent our voice to the community and also reflect the community's voices to us. And finally, I'd like to build a CD17 Discord where the younger generation can join and have community with one another, as well as have their voices represented in our office and in our legislation.
Thank you. Mario? You're on mute.
Why does listening to diverse voices matter if you don't think the federal government should do anything anyway? They'll never talk to you to begin with. You need to recreate the political process where people actually believe that their participation matters. Because right now, the people that don't participate, they don't care because they don't think the government actually can do anything or will do anything for them. So what you need to do, recreate the process. Every single person here talked about business, corporate, and tech. Not one person here talked about the people that serve your coffee, the people that bring the food to you, the people that every day are probably working like 60 hours a week just to make it by.
Thank you. Mario, you'll be the first person to respond to this question. It's for 60 seconds.
Sure.
Many older people have owned their homes for so long that the capital gain tax from the appreciated value makes it financially not viable to downsize. What would you do to make it easier for empty nesters to sell their homes and free up housing for families?
You know, those commercials where like they're like, hey, we'll like buy your home and you can like, you know, take some money out based on how much we bought the home for, whatever. Reverse mortgage, right? Kind of like that. I think the federal government could definitely help with a similar kind of program in order to make sure, because people are afraid like, oh, I don't want to leave because the money might go up and when I die, my kid will get the money. No, you know, it's like the federal government could definitely help out. They just choose not to because they're not listening to us. So I'm just, you know, that's one of the few ideas I have, but again, it doesn't matter. They're not going to listen to you until you start electing them out.
Thank you. Joe?
Oh, I think there's a pretty simple answer to that. Get rid of the capital gains tax. I mean, when you talk about these gains or something like real estate, basically what you're seeing is inflation at work. Somebody bought a house for $50,000 a generation ago, and now it's $1 million. Well, that's because the value of property has gone up along with everything else, and you're essentially taxing people on something that wasn't really a gain. If they had used their money some other way, it would have gone up too. So I think that's the simple answer. Just get rid of the capital gains tax.
Ritesh?
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Joe, but at the same time, I'll do a little bit more from the federal government. First of all, is any senior who wants to move to whether they upside or downside their house, whatever the money is, they should carry their property taxes with them so that their property taxes will not go up. Second thing is that any gains what they're getting by selling the house, if they're downsizing, it should be tax-free. Third, the Prop 19, when they pass the property to the children, we should not be taxing the children based on the current market value. So Prop 19, we have to fix that part. Fourth, we need to ensure that our seniors, they are protected and they have money to live. We should make the reverse mortgage much easier. So at the end of the day, we should do what seniors want to do, and we should create the rule which will help them, work with them, and also take care of them when they need it. Because at the end of the day, let's not forget, these are the seniors who work hard to make the America great. And this is the time we have to work for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anita?
Thank you. I agree with Joe that the capital gains tax can definitely be lowered so that we can alleviate that burden. I think that for people who've lived in their homes for a long time, that gain is proper, it's legitimate, they've spent time there, and that gain should be reflected in the ability to reap the rewards of their home. I also agree with Ritesh when he says that Prop 19 made it very difficult for new families to start, or even for parents to pass on their property to their children. I think, though, at the federal level, the best thing we can do is to lower overspending. When we lower overspending, we lower inflation, we lower interest rate, and that allows first-time home buyers to pursue the dream of purchasing their own homes.
Thank you. Anita, you be the recipient of this next question, I should say. It's for 60 seconds. Why should young voters choose you?
When my team and I sat down and we were thinking about, well, how do we position Anita? Like what's special about her? When they say, well, she's young and she's Asian and she's a female. And I think for me, I'll just share a personal story. I've never seen my face reflected in Congress. I didn't see someone young. I didn't see someone female. I didn't see someone Asian. And this journey, I hope that it gets to inspire young people to say, you can do it. You have valuable stories to offer. You have valuable perspectives to share. And I guess the only thing that I would say for my young people is to say, if I can do it, you can do it too. And the first step is to make your voice heard through your vote.
Thank you. Mario?
May I get the question one more time, please?
Why should young voters choose you?
Sorry, may I get the question one more time, please?
Why should young voters choose you?
How much time do I have left?
60 seconds to respond.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mario. Ritesh?
Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy. I think,
Excuse me, I went out of order. Joe, excuse me, I'm sorry. Joe White.
So the reason why a young voter should vote for me is that the young voters are being screwed by the old-time politicians who have set up an enormous government that is going to harm their lives far more than it's going to harm mine, because, you know, I'm getting up there and I'm not going to have to live with the consequences of this much longer. But they are. The young voters are going to vote, are going to suffer from the policies of the establishment politicians. And establishment politicians, by that I mean people who have the same old ideas. I see people here of different ethnicities, different genders, okay? But if you send somebody to Congress just because they match your gender or your age or your ethnicity, but they are going to pursue the same failed policies that their parents and grandparents did, that's not going to make a world that's suitable for our children and grandchildren. We need better policies that reverse the mistakes of the old-time politicians.
Thank you.
No matter what age you are, you can fix that.
Thank you. Ritesh?
yeah, first of all, thank you, Tracy. Young generation is our future. And as their congressman, I will do everything to make their base very strong. When I see the false promises are done with them, the removal of the student debt, free healthcare, safety, security, everything, I feel very sad. My vision is to make the colleges free for every children when we go. We have to work on that. Today, when we look into the European countries, they have the free education. Why our young children, when they come out from the school, they go with so much debt? Second, I like to bring the technology in the colleges where the young mind can have the seat of all the latest technologies while they are graduating, and they will have the knowledge what they want to do in their life. Because I see many young voters are very much confused what they want to do in their life. Third is I want to work for them for the housing part. If the young voters, they are buying the house, they should get some kind of tax incentive. They are settling down there. We have to work everything to make their life very simple for the young voters.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mario, you're getting, this is the...
Oh, yeah, sorry, I ran out of breath. I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
this is a 90-second question, and that is,
Okay.
what question do you wish we had asked you during this forum, and what is your answer?
That's a good question. May I get the question one more time, please? You know, good question. Oh, actually, hold on. I do wish that you asked me, has my website changed recently? It actually has. So it's now voteformario2024.com. So yes, the question that I would like for you to ask, I don't know if you're asking it and then I answer, but yeah, it would have been, has your website changed recently? Because it's black when I go to the one that's on the website that you put up on 411. Yes, it's wrong. I updated it. Voteformario2024.com. There'll be more on it as the campaign goes on. It should be fun.
Thank you. Joe?
So the question I wish you had asked me was, is it true that libertarians believe that taxation is theft? Well, here's what I would say. Taxes are a burden on individual citizens. They are a drag on our economy as a whole, and they're a continued source of injustice. Discontent about taxes was one of the reasons our country was founded, and it is one of the primary jobs of our representatives in Congress to protect the people from being overtaxed. Ideally, our goal should be to replace as many tax-supported functions as possible with ones based on market solutions and voluntary actions. Meanwhile, in Congress, I will not vote for any tax increases, tax rate increases, or surcharges. Taxes are already too high. That's true for income taxes, so-called payroll taxes, and tariffs. I will not vote for any new taxes, including any national sales tax or value-added tax. And of course, I will support reducing or better yet, eliminating existing taxes. The tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, but now being continued by the Biden administration, same old, are a kind of tax that hurts American consumers and in the long run also businesses as other countries respond with similar actions. Congress should act to roll back these tariffs and to remove the president's ability to impose them unilaterally. Taxation is inherently unjust because it takes people's money without their consent. That's why people call it theft. There is no way to make any tax more fair. There's no fair tax by taking anybody's more money from anybody. The only way to make taxes less unfair is to reduce them for everybody to the point where they are not a significant burden on anybody.
Just listen to the young people and get rid of money. That's what they want.
Thank you. Thank you. Ritesh?
Yes, thank you so much. Actually, the question what I was thinking was, what is the major difference in policies between you and the current incumbent, and why should people vote for you? And I like to answer that question as, first of all, people for the California 17 voters, my friends, you find in me a peacemaker, a unifier, an innovator, a supporter of merit-based education, fair and merit-based immigration, women's health, sensible climate change policies person, and sensible foreign policy person. I'm a candidate who has a common sense approach to every problem. And today our nation is facing serious problem. I'm a first generation immigrant like many of you. I'm trying to live the American dream of hard work and fair reward. And that dream is completely drastically changed by my opponent policies. In particular, some of the position like education, where the person is supporting Prop 16, which is a race-based college admission. And after saying that he will not support it, which is very sad to see. We see the crime rates is continue to go up and up. Opponents support the defunding the police and Prop 47 type of bill, which is very sad, which I will never support. Immigration, I'm very much into the fair immigration. I don't support the massive illegal and economic asylum seekers. Regarding the foreign policy, I want to make the America proud again. Today, the people, they laugh on America. They think that the America is bully. Instead, America spends a lot more money than anybody else. So,
thank you. Thank you very much. Well, that concludes our questions. Certainly a lively discussion. And
Did Anita get to give hers?
Oh, Anita, I'm so sorry. Yes, please.
Sure.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. The question I wish you would have asked is, why are you running? The truth is, I began this campaign to be a voice for the voiceless, trafficked American youth. But here's what I found in my research. Trafficking is just a symptom. I asked a friend who works in the field, is it true that when Congress makes it harder to put food on the table, exploitation happens? I'll never forget it. Her answer was a simple yes. And in that moment, I knew why I needed to run for Congress, because the issues that affect us all, inflation, crime, drug abuse, immigration, education, hurts all of our communities, but especially the most vulnerable, low-income families, the homeless, foster youth. These are complex issues, and to walk out of this together, to find solutions, requires the best of us. And that is why, as your representative, I am committed to represent all of our constituents, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everyone, to give you a seat at the table.
Thank you. Ritesh, are you wanting to use a rebuttal?
yes, I just want to mention that the Medicare for all those things which is used by the opponent is all fake right now. We have to work to help the others, those who are suffering. In fact, I like to bring the change in the law on drug imports, where the drugs which are sold is cheaper outside and expensive here. Each drug must have 2 to 3 suppliers. Medicare and insurance companies must publish the actual price, what everyone is paying. I'd like to reduce the medical doctor, like the time they spend on the school. In fact, give the tax incentive to the small clinic. I'd like to work a lot more on that angle too. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And now, with apologies to Anita, that concludes our questions. Thank you all very much. Just a few more remarks before we close this forum. First, we want to thank the candidates for their participation. And we want to thank the attendees for being here this evening. And please, as this slide indicates, do vote. Please vote preferably before March 5th, but at least on March 5th. If you liked this event, you're going to love our upcoming candidate forums and review of ballot measures. And so please visit our websites for dates and times and to register for the events. If you would like more nonpartisan information, please explore these sites. And with that, it's a wrap from our side. And again, thank you for attending.